Stop chasing happiness. Become anti-fragile instead. There's nothing in this world that moves you further away from happiness than the very act of chasing it. If you're chasing happiness in your life, chances are you'll actually never get it. I was stuck in this trap actually between the past 2 years of my life. All I really wanted was to find this happiness thing. All I really wanted was to find where it came from. And actually, I thought that maybe true happiness came from. First, this was my dilemma that I thought true happiness came from achieving the things that I want to, and I made these routines for myself, and I made these very productive routines for myself, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go achieve the things that I want to, and I'm gonna be happy. The problem is in the results, it's an extremely going for the things that you want to, it's an extremely stressful thing. You don't even talk about happiness. In fact, you have to confront some really difficult parts. You have to go and do the hard things, and doing the hard things, the stress, I didn't know how to cope with it, and that was too much. And I was like, okay, no, this is not the path to happiness. And so I reverted back. So on one end of the spectrum, there was me being a high achiever, me being productive, me being doing the things that I want to do. In fact, it was not also doing the things that I want to do. It was, I think I want to do this thing because I think this will bring me happiness. So I went to the other side of the spectrum, and then it was like, just leave it. I'm going to become the Buddha. And now I'm not going to go to a cave. What I will do is I will not do anything. How's that? I'll just stay here. I'll stay in my zone, and I'll be happy. And tell you what, it was pretty cool. It was pretty amazing for the first 5 days. And after 5 days, I was like, this is boring. I don't want to do this. This is very boring, and I shall find something else, because this is clearly not the path to happiness. Because all I was doing was watching movies. I don't know, at that time I think Instagram reels were not a thing, so I was not swiping them, but must be something else, some other platform that I was swiping, watching YouTube, and that was all I was doing. And I felt this is extremely boring, so what's the answer? And so basically, in both of those situations, you might be thinking, okay, so what do you find? Here's what I find. Stop chasing happiness. Don't chase it. Because chasing it actually takes you further away from it. Just like it, because no matter what you do, it's outside your circle of influence. It's outside your thing. And if you just stop chasing it, if you're like, okay, it's not a goal in my list, and I want to do the things that I want to, then you have some chance of happiness. I'll give you an analogy for it. Chasing happiness is exactly like trying to look at sunlight and trying to look at the sun in broad daylight. You can't do that. It burns your eyes. You can't see. It's like it blinds you. But there are other ways that you can actually look at the sun or the sunlight, and we're going to talk about them in this video. But mostly, the dilemma of happiness is you got to stop chasing it, and you got to just literally let go of the idea that happiness is a thing. And I feel this is where I learned. This is a fairly recent reflection. In fact, it's so recent that I had this reflection just hours ago when I was planning for this podcast. And the reflection was that I've made this problem for I've been in this dilemma for a long time. And truth be told, I think that maybe happiness is in the middle path. And I found that middle path out, and I was like, okay, maybe not too much work, not too much relaxation, somewhere in the middle, and the middle path is the best path, and that is actually really good advice. But the problem was I was actually still somewhere in the back of my mind, I was chasing happiness. I was like, I want to be happy, I want to feel good. And if you're always, truth be told, if you're always wanting to feel good, the way to feel good, if you want to do it always, keep taking drugs, keep increasing the dosage, keep taking newer and newer drugs, you'll feel good. But the side effects of them are so great that you'll be ruining your life. Is that the kind of, they'll make you extremely happy. Another productive way, and there's a positive, there's a way to do this, that there's the way to chase drugs that feels, there's so many ways to chase drugs. And we are chasing these drugs. Most people are, but they don't show it like that. They show it, By the way, I'm saying this without attacking anyone. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm not saying that this is wrong. You do you, whatever feels best to you. Here's what the problem that I made as well. And the problem was, oh, I'm going to go on a meditation retreat. I'm going to go and do some spiritual things, and that will make me happy. And that was not it as well. And I said, oh, let's do something else. I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go chase this person, or I'm going to go chase this goal. And no matter what I did, and by the way, those things are actually good. A meditation retreat or chasing a goal or chasing a person, that's actually good things to do. The problem is your intention with it. Because if your intention is, I'm not happy, I want to be happy, hence meditation retreat, your intention there is wrong. Because guess what? The true path to growth, I would say, not even happiness, and the true path to, I feel, happiness and growth, you can say both, is not one that is filled with feeling good. The path to happiness is filled with problems, it is filled with difficulties, it is also filled with very harsh things that you have to confront. And if you want to become happy, if you want to actually feel like you're living a life that is on purpose, a life that is true to yourself, you should not chase happiness. You should instead chase antifragility. You should become anti-fragile. And the whole concept of anti-fragile is borrowed from Nassim Taleb, and the way he describes it is that adversities make you grow. If this is very counterintuitive to what other people might tell you, or what most people might say, or even in the personal development world, or in the philosophy world, Stoicism will tell you this story, or some other branches of philosophy will tell you this story, but generally it seems very counterintuitive. Like, why would I go seek adversities? Why would I go seek bad things, bad events? It's the very reason is because you, as a human being, you are a system who grows through adversities, who grow through bad events. And I'm going to prove that, by the way. You might say, oh, but no, I'm very scared of bad events. I don't want bad events to happen. But the truth is, even in nature, even everywhere around you, bad events make you grow to the extent that where they don't kill you. Because if there's a bad event which kills you, you're gone. There's no growth there. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And to understand this, we have to understand what anti-fragile systems are. And they're systems which are basically, there are three types of systems, as Nassim Taleb explains this in his book Antifragile, is that there are three different types of systems in this world. The first one is a fragile system. And the fragile system, an example of a fragile system might be glass, for example. A glass is a fragile system. For example, if you put pressure on the glass, it is very fragile. It can break, and it cannot come back to its original shape. When it's broken, you cannot basically put it back together to the way it was. So it's a fragile system. Another example of systems is robust. There are systems which are robust. For example, a tennis ball, to some extent, it's a robust system, or rubber to some extent, it's a robust system that, and a robust system is you apply pressure to it, and when the pressure is gone, it will return back to its original state. And what anti-fragile systems are, these are basically the best form of systems, and this is antifragility is also resilience 2.0. Resilience is what we in human terms, resilience is what robust is. But resilience 2.0 is what anti-fragile is. And anti-fragility is all about, anti-fragile systems are all about, there's a system and you apply pressure on it, and you apply a lot of pressure on it. But when you take the pressure away, the system not only returns back to its original states, it goes back to a state which is even greater than it was previously. An example of this system, can you think of an example of a system that is anti-fragile? Your body, your muscular structure is an anti-fragile system. What are you doing when you're in the gym? You go to the gym and you put pressure on your muscle. And when you're doing bicep curls, you put a lot of pressure on your muscles. And what happens is you put all this pressure and your muscle, basically, it breaks down in that time. But when it repairs, it doesn't only become, it doesn't only go back to its original state, it becomes a lot stronger than what it was before. Another example of anti-fragile system is what is built into you as well. And this is what psychologists call, not all psychologists, because psychologists often take the other route, and the other route is post-traumatic stress disorder. But the route that we are taking when we are talking about anti-fragile system is it happens in your mind, and that system is post-traumatic growth, PTG. It's not PTSD, it's PTG. And in psychology, we are very interested in PTSD because more disorders mean more people that we can treat, and there's a whole industry of the whole industry can come from that place. But PTG is post-traumatic growth, and this is something that happens when after an event that is very traumatic, after an event that is traumatic to the point where it breaks you in some way, you can say spiritually, mentally, or psychologically, a lot of growth, there's a potential for a lot of growth, and a lot of growth can happen from that place. So when Nassim Taleb is actually saying to you, and I'm saying to you as well, I second that, that become an anti-fragile person, become an anti-fragile, instead of chasing happiness, become anti-fragile. He's actually saying that become a system that actually keeps growing. The more pressure there is, the more adversities you face, the more hard things you face. And basically, in an indirect way, what this means is do the hard thing. Don't run away from the hard thing, because do the hard thing. And I think even the path to when we are talking about, let's say, meditation retreat or something like that, a meditation retreat is not all about bliss. Yay, we're going to do this, we're going to meditate, and we're going to let go of our devices. And more than that, it's more about facing the darkness that is inside you. And basically, when you're signing up for a meditation retreat, you're not signing up for an easy thing to do. You're signing up for a thing which is extremely hard, and that thing is you are facing the very deep, dark, difficult parts of yourself. And that's how it happens. So basically, do the hard thing. And this is where this whole concept of post-traumatic growth, there's this whole concept of antifragility comes from. And I'll tell you in fact a little story that I heard some time ago, and it's one of the stories that has had a lot of impact on me. And this was the story of two girls in Canada who got raped around the same time, and around the same park as well, around the same area, around the same time. And one of these girls, so what the journalist did, he followed them up later in his life. And one of these girls, they were both of these girls got raped. Both of them got sent to this aftercare school where they were taught about the best practices to cope with it and stuff like that. And one of the things that they were taught in the school was when you're one of the very horrifying parts of rape is when it has happened to you once, you're more vulnerable to it happening to you again. It's because the people who do these kind of things, they're scavengers in the real sense. They are like ugly scavengers, and they hunt for the weak. So when it has happened to you one time, you become a weak target, and you're more vulnerable to it happening to you again. So this is exactly the thing that both of the women were taught. And so one of the women, she takes that and she becomes very depressed, and she becomes depressed to a point where she's suicidal, and she has been put on medication pills and stuff like that. That happens to one of the women. The other woman sits in the same class, is told the same thing, and when she's been told this thing, she asks herself a question, that is, why does this have to happen this way, right? Why am I more vulnerable to this? And the answer that comes to this is because now I am more fearful. Maybe that's why. So what this woman does is she signs up for a self-defense program. And in this self-defense training program, she starts some really interesting things, like really useful things like a credit card held in the proper way can cut a man's throat, and how you can defend yourself with something with household items or things that you can carry in your purse. And as she was learning this, the way she carried herself completely changed. And she would be at a party with her friends, and her friends would ask her, like, can we walk you to your car with what happened to you and stuff like that? But she would say, no, I'm completely capable of walking myself. And it happened so that her friends started saying to her that, can you walk us to our car? And she started doing that because, as you learn these things, her complete body language changed, and her personality of herself changed. And sometime later, she starts her own self-development school, self-defense school. And basically, it's a completely different trajectory of life that she takes. And here's the very interesting part of the entire story. Here's the key part of the entire story. When the journalist asked this woman that, what if you had the power to go back in time and prevent your own rape? Would you do that? And the woman, she looks at him and she says, no. I'm more afraid of the woman that I was before I got raped than the woman that I am now. Right? So she basically, and this is, I think, a classical example of, there are two women. One of them ruins her life totally. And I'm not blaming her. I'm saying that this woman, she goes to a completely different trajectory. And then the woman that who founds a self-defense school, it's like two people going through the same terrific event, told the same thing, but they made a different choice. And the choice that, for one of her, the choice was very subconscious. She didn't consciously make a choice. And the subconscious choice was default into fight or flight mode, and just, completely go back and depressed and suicidal. And that was that path. And for the other girl, the choice was, why this? And she asks herself a question. She makes a different choice. And instead of experiencing PTSD, she experiences PTG, which is post-traumatic growth. So I feel when it comes to anti-fragility, it's more of a choice. It's more what you choose to do with what happens to you. Because let's be honest, you cannot control what happens to you. When you're in life, you're totally, I'm an optimistic person, but I am not a positive person, in the sense that I don't say when you sign up for life, you're signing up for all Ferris wheel rides and Disneyland and movies and all that. All that is part of life. But more than that, heartbreaks, pains, difficult turns, people stabbing your back, right? All that is part of life. And if you can't deal with that, you can't deal with life. And the way you deal with that is, I feel that you cannot control what happens to you. A very bad event might happen to the extent where it might break you, but still the choice is upon you. And the choice that you have is not that to stop that bad event. The choice is not to prevent it. The choice is not to not make it happen, but the choice is what to do with what happens, right? And the choice that comes in your life, and that comes in your life after a bad event, is, how am I going to take this? Let's say you fail. You were deciding to do a thing and you fail horribly at it. Now you have a choice. You're faced with a choice, and the choice is, how am I going to take it? Am I going to take this as a lesson, or am I going to take this as something completely negative, and I'm never going to try again? Because if you take this as something completely negative and you don't try again, guess what? You are going to stay in the same place. But if you take this as a lesson and you think back to yourself, okay, what is it that I did wrong, or what is it that I can improve? You're going to come back stronger. And guess what? You might fail the next time. So what? You make a choice again and you say, okay, I make the choice to learn. And this is where I feel a very big lesson is that in your life, if you can learn to transform your failures into lessons, every time you fail, every time a bad event happens, every time something negative happens in your life, and I'm talking about something really negative like losing a loved one as well, if you can take that as a lesson, you can learn to do something really good. You can learn to make something really good out of the pain that you have, that is in your heart. And I feel when something bad happens, as a human, you feel pain. As a human, you cannot just escape it. You cannot escape the negative emotions that are inside of your heart, that go inside of your heart. You can only embrace them or run away from them. And most people, they run away from them. That is a choice that they make. But the people who embrace them, they're There's the choice. There's a choice is either you run away from them and you keep trying to run, you keep running away from them. The other choice is that either you cripple down, you totally cripple down. And they study with monkeys where when they gave them certain amount of electrical shocks, uh, definitely not, I don't support this kind of research on animals, but they gave the monkeys the kind of electrical shock. And I think after some time of giving the electrical shock, what the monkey does is when he finds out there's no place I can go where I can't get an electrical shock, basically he cripples down. He goes to the corner of the room, bites his own head, scratches his own head, and bites his own fingernail. And basically that is the form of crippling down. But there's also another choice, right? The monkey didn't have a choice, but we do. We are monkeys who have a choice. And the other choice is embrace it. And embracing the pain means go directly at the fear, go directly at the pain. And instead of taking that as something negative, instead of blaming, instead of saying this is something wrong, this shouldn't have happened, the government is wrong, the society is wrong, my family is wrong, somebody is wrong, you take that responsibility on yourself when you say, okay, this happened. How can I use it to build something positive? How can I use it to build myself or something good in my life? And you'll see countless examples of people. You'll see this. I remember I once heard the story of some young children who were really abused by their parents. And what they did is they took a shotgun and they shot both of their parents in the face. And there's also this, I know this guy, he was also really abused by his mother. And what he did was he went on to feed billions of people. The guy is Tony Robbins. So you see there are people who are in same situation, abused by parents. One decides to shoot their parents, one decides to feed 1 billion people because he didn't have meals himself. What makes the difference? I feel the difference is a choice. I feel the difference is the perspective that you see. And I have this really, there's these levels of consciousness. There are these levels of consciousness that you can live on. And one of them is, and this is where 99% of people live in most areas of their life. And this level of consciousness is called to me. So one of the levels of consciousness that you can live on is to me. And you can add this phrase to anything that happens in your life. For example, life is happening to me. This problem is happening to me. This is happening to me. So basically in this kind of example, everything in the world is happening to you. You are a victim in the other sense. This is called the victim consciousness. You go out of that. One level above that is responsibility consciousness, where you say, by me. You take the responsibility of those things. And this is, I feel, where I feel philosophies like Stoicism and all these, basically Stoicism can take you even above from these level of consciousness. But they're really good because they teach you not to be a victim, to take responsibility, to do the things that are in your control, and you do them, right? So that is where, but I feel there's also another, and then in this model of consciousness and levels of consciousness, there's through me and as me, the other two levels, which are irrelevant to us right now. I think one model that is really good, and I've adopted that in my life, and I keep coming back to it, and that is, I've learned this from Tony as well, Tony Robbins, and he has this really, really nice saying, which is that life is happening for me, not to me. And when you adapt that, it's like life is happening for me. This is where I feel this is the basic perspective shift of the person who shot his parent, and of the person, Tony himself, who fed billions of people, right? And if you adopt this choice, and I feel again, this, Tony calls this a belief, I call it a choice, right? It's a choice that you make where when you go through bad events, you can have a choice. You can play victim. You can say that this has happened to me, this is wrong, and that is perfectly, if you make that choice, I respect you. I have nothing against you. But the kind of life that you are going to have from that choice is you also should be responsible for that. Instead of then a bit of responsibility also falls on you, not just the people, not just the bad event, but also you who played the victim and who keeps playing the victim. And Another choice that you have is you can basically say that life is not happening to me, life is happening for me. And what this choice, I think one choice closes you off from all possibilities. This other choice, it opens you up to a world of possibilities where it says that, okay, if life is happening for me, what's the lesson that I can learn from this bad event? Where's the positivity? Where's the silver lining, right? Where are all the good things that I can create from this? And I can give you countless examples of people who have been in less than human conditions, who have gone through less than human conditions, and they have created something really beautiful. In fact, most of the things which are beautiful and which end up helping a lot of people in this world, they have been created by people who have seen hell. And hell in the real sense, they have seen hell up close, they have experienced hell up close. And this is why it's important to become anti-fragile, because if you can't see hell, and if you can't be in hell, and if you can't experience that hell, a part of you would always remain underdeveloped. A part of you would always remain in the very crude, in the very basic form. So even in enlightenment, I love this. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said that the path to enlightenment is not all bliss. It's very different. This is where Carl Jung said, face your shadows. It's exactly that part where you have to go deep within, and basically facing your shadows is also means adversities, right? See the adversities, embrace them, and instead of saying that life is happening to me, what if you adopted the belief, or if you made that choice that life is happening for me, and I'm going to see life this way. Everything that happens in my day, or everything that happens in my life, or especially bad events, I'm going to take them as training. I'm going to take them as opportunities for growth. I'm going to take them as gifts that life gives to me in the sense of growth, in the sense of a chance to do some beautiful things in the world. And an example of this might be, and I'm going to leave you with this, an example of this might be, let's say you lose a child that was very dear to you. And as a result, there are two choices that you have. And one of the choices that you have is you can go ahead and you can basically, obviously, you'll mourn and you'll feel pain and you'll do all of that. One of the choices that you can have is, because that trauma is too big, you can say all children are, they're not good. I don't want to do anything with children, and I don't want to have another child for the rest of my life. And other choice that you have, and you can make this choice as well, is because I lost my child, I want to take care of the children of other people. So you go and you start a shelter home, and you start taking care of children, and you start taking care, you start teaching them, and you start doing beautiful things to them, and you start training them in a beautiful way. So that is where I feel that you have that choice. But the choice is basic. The precursor to making that choice is, how do you see life? Do you see life as if it is happening to you, or do you see life as if it is happening for you? I'm going to see you in the next one. If you have enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to watch this video on my side. It also relates to physics, philosophy, and personal development. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Continue seeking truth and become a truth seeker.